Well, it's a good evening from him, and it's a good evening from me. Welcome to my fifth, I think this one is how to succeed as a mortgage advisor. Hope everybody's well. Let's go on air because it shows it's live, doesn't it? I'm Paul Archer, and I'm going to share with you some tips and techniques today, all about tech and upgrading yourself and how to communicate and automation, all that kind of stuff, really, because it's all been in the news, isn't it? And we want to give you some top tips around that. I've got a load of questions for you. As always, I've got some people live tonight as well who can ask me questions if they wish to. Happy to take those questions as we carry on. But I'm going to pop over to my other office. So let's go head over to the other side of the office. Wait for me for a second or two. I'm just coming. I'm just coming. Here I come. Hello. I'm in the office. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Let's get going with our first question, shall we? Remember, the topic tonight is how to be a successful mortgage advisor. Tech, automation, and embracing the future is where I want to get to. Remember to ping your questions down there if anyone's live, they want to talk this one through. So, several questions. Let's get on to the first question, shall we? First question is, where should I operate my advice business from? Now, this is an age-old question, isn't it? Traditionally, brokers, financial advisors, mortgage advisors would have offices where people would go in there to a room with a computer and a desk and cups of tea and all those good things. And that's great, and you should have that too. But I've seen a few brokers now wishing they hadn't booked or paid for an office and got a long-term rental because of the recession that's about to kick in. Because many brokers, advisors can do a hybrid model. You can do face-to-face, of course you can, but you can also do it virtually. You can operate from video, from telephone, virtually. You could be based at home. You could operate any way you wanted to. Okay, I think operating from the beach is probably a bit of a long haul. You know, you've got seagulls squawking over you when you're interviewing a client. But the point is, though, that you should think about a modern way of talking to clients, liaising with clients. Yeah, meet them face to face to build that rapport, but talk to them via video. As long as you do the video properly, and we're going to come on to that in a second. I think that's a very good model to have. As a training provider, we've gone entirely virtual. We are literally virtual all the time because that's how training is now delivered. Anyway, let's go on to the next question, shall we? What tech do we need to run online meetings? So you've decided you're going to do some more online now as a result of this. What tech do you need? Well, there's quite a lot of tech, really. You need hardware and software. Hardware, of course, are physical things like screens, cameras, microphones, headsets. I mean, I've got a microphone here. I'm not suggesting you have that. Headsets work in noisy offices. You want microphones. You want decent cameras. Don't rely on a camera pegged to your laptop. Get a decent one as well. Lighting, all those good things. So lots of hardware needed and a couple of monitors at least. Software, where you can use Zoom, you can use Teams. It doesn't cost a lot of money for the software nowadays as well to do it. So they're the sort of things that you can use to run online meetings. Next question. Top tips to communicate via video. Okay. So you decided to communicate via video. What are the top tips? Well, there's several top tips, aren't there? Keep the meetings shorter is definitely one. Don't have long meetings with people on video because attention spans are not as good. I think we know that, don't we? When you're talking, make sure you pause more, you're slower, you pronounce, you make sure obviously the text's working so they can hear you, etc. But I call it reffing as well. I like you to ref. So let's pop over to my whiteboard for a second over here so we can write a few things down, can't we? I call it reffing, ref, which is the referee, of course, the England are at the World Cup, so let's hope we do well there. But so there'll be referees. Now, when you ref somebody, these are the things to think about as well as you go along. The first thing is you've got there you go, eye contact there. Let's put that one in there. That's the most important one. Make sure that you have good eye contact. Now, when you're face to face with a customer, of course you look in their eyes, don't you? When you're on video, you'll probably still look in their eyes, but your camera lens might be somewhere else. Gotta look at that. So right now, for example, my camera lens is there, which I guess is what you're seeing me. You think I'm giving you eye contact. If I was to look at you, I would look down here because I've got different screens, which of course is important, isn't it? We've got to be able to organise eye contact. R stands for rule of thirds, which you may have heard of. When you're on a screen, you have this imaginary third. If I divide that into three, your face should be up here and your eyes should be in the top third. There you go. Ta-da! That's the rule, and that's where you should put your face on your camera so that people can see you. And the last one there, of course, is your frame. Behind you, what's behind you is key. Now, behind me, of course, is just a whiteboard. It's not a big deal, is it? Over here, for example, behind me are some pictures and stuff on air things and stuff like that as well. Over here, of course, behind me are my slides. So I'm framing myself. That's what I'm saying here. I'm framing. In other words, behind me, I make sure I know what's there and it's part of the process of communicating. So I think there's some good tips about communicating via video for you. Hope you enjoyed those. Next question, please. Here we go. What are the 3 modern advice types? So, what are the 3 modern advice types? Well, we talk about advice. Talk to the regulator, and they'll talk about independent advice, whole of market advice. They'll talk about restricted advice. They'll talk about panel of lenders, that sort of thing. That's not where I'm going. The 3 modern types of advisor are traditional advisor, robo advisor, and hybrid advisor. That's how things are moving. Now, the traditional advisor, she very much is a face-to-face person. She's about doing all the meetings of the client in the traditional way with fact-finding and needs analysis and trust building, all those things. She'll do it face-to-face in a real room, either in the client's home or in her office or even on video. It doesn't make a difference. But she's doing all the advising. Yes, she's got a pile of people behind the scenes doing the power planners doing a lot of the sourcing and the help and assistance, admin, etc., and calculating suitability reports and things like that. Of course she is, because that's how modern advice practices work. In fact, good brokers now have 1 or 2 advisors and 5 or 6 people behind the scenes doing all the admin. That's traditional. Now, the second one is robo advice. Now, robo advice is, in fact, there's a question coming up shortly on that one, so a bit more detail on that one. Robo advice is very different. Robo advice is where there's no human. It's pretty much no humans here. Robo advising. So we call it robo advising, artificial intelligence, call it what you like. Fact is, it's all done by algorithms, quantifiable calculations for stock managing, AI to do the talking, large language models to do all the chat. It's all done through artificial intelligence. And that's a growing area, of course. The third one is hybrid. I think that's the future. Hybrid is where financial advisor or mortgage advisor, she's very much qualified, etc., but she's using technology, artificial intelligence, to do the heavy lifting. She's cleverly, for example, got some software that creates suitability letters, decent ones that people actually read. She's got software that does so many parts of her job, not other people. Okay, she might have other people who use the software, but essentially she's not looking at labor to do the work. She's looking at tech. That's the hybrid model. That's where you should be going in the future. I definitely believe in that. 100%. 100%. Okay. So what is robo-advising? We kind of mentioned it earlier, didn't we? Robo-advising. Now, robo-advising, as I mentioned to you, is where there's no human. You're using artificial intelligence. ChatGPT is all the rage at the moment, isn't it? These large language models that are able to scrape the internet and talk to you and respond to English language and to be able to talk and chat and give information from the internet, from what they've learned. That's the large language models. And that's very much robo-advising. A robo-advisor artificial intelligence engine would learn all about financial planning. They could read the CMAP books in seconds. It took you 3 months. They could learn the stuff very quickly. Don't get me wrong. They know, because AI and ChatGPT, it's like having a friend who's swallowed the internet. They know everything. So don't think your technical knowledge will ever win over AI. It never will do. Your personality will, of course it will. So that's effectively what robo-advising is. It's using tech, it's using AI, ChatGPT, different types of models or software in order to give advice. And you see them in things like Vanguard, for example, DIY investing. Apps on phones, people do their mortgages directly through apps now. They don't need to talk to humans. Artificial intelligence takes care of all of the detail. So that's a big competition for you if you are going to remain vanilla. We'll come on to that a little bit later. If you're just going to do basic mortgages, then technology will take you over in a very, very short time. It's already dealing with product transfers. A lot of brokers are crying about that they're not getting all the business for remortgages because most people are just product transferring with their existing lender. Why? because it's easier and simpler and quicker and less hassle, and there's no affordability checks or any of that palaver. So that's why clients are doing it. And of course, brokers think you must come to a mortgage broker to get advice. You don't have to. And clients are preferring AI to the broker. So be careful of that. The client always wins at the end of the day. What is robo advising? Good question, that one. Next question. How can I compete with robo advisors? Well, that's up to you how you do that. Personally, I think you should specialize. I think whatever advice you give, you should be specialist in that advice, both the content of the advice, but also the client type that you deal with. So you get good at that client type and good at that particular marketplace, be it development finance, buy to let finance, commercial finance, mortgages for dentists, or whatever it is. You need to specialize in the client and maybe in the topic itself. Maybe you want to specialize in holiday lending or something like that. So first of all, you need to do that. You definitely need to do that. You may want to look at your fee schedule, not to get rid of fees. I don't agree with that. I think you should be paid for what you're worth, because if you don't charge for what you're worth, you won't do a proper job for your clients in the day. It comes down to that. I personally believe that. But look at your fees, look at your costs. Look at how you can maybe restrict them a bit using video and that kind of method to talk to customers as well, rather than having Chesterfield sofas in the reception, that sort of thing. That's the best way to use it. I don't think you can compete directly with them. I think you should become hybrid. You should use technology yourself to your benefit. So don't fight it as a nil-nil game or nil-sum game. This will be win-win for both types of advisor moving forward. So I think that's how you should operate. And be human. That's the other thing as well. Be human. Make sure you accentuate your human side. Let's go back to that previous question. Make sure you accentuate your human side. Nobody trusts a robot. Don't care what you say. Do you trust a robot? You might believe what they say and like it, but you don't trust them. You trust humans. So be human. Get better at communicating is the key. Get better at talking to people, interpreting them. Become a Martin Lewis. Model him. He's brilliant. He communicates fantastically. He's got a lot of critics, of course he has, but he therefore can get information across to people to understand. That's where the secret for you is. And enough of that talk. Let's go on to the next question. What sourcing system should I be using? So we're into tech now, aren't we? Now, the sourcing system, as you appreciate, is 2 or 3 types in the industry. There's mortgage sourcing, where you source the right mortgage lender. There's financial advisor sourcing, where you source the right protection product, etc. Pensions provider, investment platforms. There's all sorts of sourcing software available, and there's all sorts of mortgage software that you can use for the sourcing side of things. You've got Mortgage Brain, Trigold, Air do equity release, AdviceWise do equity release as well. L&G have got one called Ignite. I love that. A bit like an Alan Sugar thing, isn't it? The it's apprenticeship broker, Ignite. Great name though. So, and you may only have the one that your network gives you or your principal gives you, so you may not have a lot of choice. But sourcing systems are essential tech to have, a good one that works really well. But don't forget the real world. I was talking to a new advisor a couple of months ago, and she's just joined this company. And the owner of the business promised to train her, which has never come to fruition because he's always too busy. And I said to her, how does he source the mortgage? She said, he doesn't. He just has 5 lenders that he uses that look after him. Okay, they're good lenders. I think Halifax was there, Nationwide was there, but they're the only ones he uses. That's old school, isn't it? So yeah, you definitely need software to do your sourcing for you. But don't forget the real world. Sometimes the sourcing software may not be updated immediately with the features of the products that change daily as well, particularly with interest rates as well. How can I automate my fact find meetings? Well, personally, you be careful of this, because your fact find meeting is something I think is where a good advisor comes into her own, because you're able to find out soft information about the client, hard information, of course. But hard facts, you can certainly automate the gathering of hard information, because it's not difficult to ask. Name, address, employment, salary. That's pretty dull, isn't it? Soft information is very different. That's when you're asking about needs and wants and goals and ambitions and thoughts about children and weekends away and all that kind of stuff. All helps to give advice. But the hard facts, you can certainly automate. You can delegate it, get somebody else to do it. You don't have to be authorized to fact find. You don't. You have to be authorized to give advice and take the advice risk. So get somebody to do it for you. A paraplanner will be able to fact find. Good training for them in the first place. Make sure you do train them, of course. You can get software now which scrapes social media to get information. Nothing wrong with that. We've got software that can talk to other social media platforms and get all the information you need. You can certainly get the client to do it. Why not? They can certainly fill in hard facts for you. Nothing wrong with that. So it's all about speeding things up. But don't automate the soft stuff, the soft information. I think that's part of your job, really, that you do. What is open banking? Well, open banking's been around for a few years now. What this allows companies to do is if they've got software that requires bank details, they can open bank to your bank account with your permission, of course. And they can then go into your bank account details and scrape every piece of information from your bank statement. Jolly useful. Think about it this. So part of the fact find is income, expenditure, all those lots of questions around that. Is it personal loans, monthly payments on your car loan? All that. There's quite a lot of information. So if you had software that had an open banking link to the customer's bank account, which they gave you permission for, you press a button, your software goes in, extracts all the data in seconds. It can populate all the information. Because a bank account, current account's got a lot of information about people, isn't it? That's what open banking is. A lot of products are using open banking. You probably don't even know it because open banking is helping people to talk to bank statements and bank accounts, which is a great thing with people's permission, of course. You've got to think about GDPR and all those good things. That's open banking. Great piece of software, that. Well, that virtual reality then, this is a good question, isn't it? A lot of people talk about VR, virtual reality, and Mark Zuckerberg, the cage fighter. Has he had his cage fight with Elon Musk yet? They keep talking about it. Anyway, they're rather busy, these two. Now, Zuckerberg, of course, very intelligent guy. He's decided to turn his company into a virtual reality specialist. And he changed his firm and called it Meta, and he created this thing called the Metaverse. Now, the Metaverse, will it happen? I don't know. The Metaverse basically is a 3D virtual world, which you jump into on an avatar, and you go around your world. It's all virtual. So you can meet people, talk to people, drive a car. And a lot of companies were creating real estate on this metaverse, and he was pumping in millions of dollars into creating this world, this virtual world. Now, for financial advisors, of course, you could create a virtual office where you just jump into this virtual office, your client jumps into, and you could be meeting over a table and chatting away nicely. And there is definitely something going on there in the future. Is it with us yet? No, it's not. The main problem is that you can get the kit. Of course, you can just go buy an Oculus Rift gadgetry from Facebook. Costs you, what, $500? And you can certainly put that into your phone, and you can certainly use the metaverse. Would your client do it, though? That's the other thing. Would they be able to get that kit? It's all well and good you having it, but your client's going to have it too, isn't it? A video meeting's easy because they have kit on their laptop or their tablets or on their phones. I think where it will go is augmented reality. I think that's possibly where things will start to happen. Augmented reality is where you superimpose some virtual image with the real background. So, for example, I've got an office here. I could put up my phone and I can see my office. Now, I could press a button and the client could suddenly appear in my office from their phone. Through their glasses that they're using. This augmented reality where you're not virtual reality, it's the real world, but you're putting people or various things you've created into it. And Apple introduced their new set, didn't they? What's their new set called? They're talking about their Apple Vision Pro, isn't it? Because the next question is how can we use virtual reality? Well, the Apple Vision Pro is it's about $3,000 or something ridiculous, wasn't it? But it's the first one. It'll get cheaper. Jolly good. It's the future of computing. But it was augmented reality. It had the real world behind, and you just put things in front of the real world, as opposed to a cartoon kind of world, really. So I think it's definitely something to think about. We're doing it for training. We're using it for training. We're investing in it. We're putting some time and effort into it because I think if you had this augmented reality of a training room and people around you who look like they were, not avatars, I think that's going to be a game changer. But it's a couple of years away, but you need to start preparing for that because it will be with you at some point. So there's a good question, isn't it? VR and augmented reality. By the way, of course, AI now has supplanted all the tech firms. They're stopped investing in metaverse now they're investing in AI, aren't they? Okay, let's get into office and productivity software. What office and productivity software should you use? Well, that's entirely up to you. You should have good software that runs your office for you. Now, you may have your network or your principal may give you best advice kind of software that does everything for you. In other words, put it on your laptop, you log in, and then your whole working world is geared around that software. client contacts, for example, video meetings, fact find meetings, presenting, sourcing. It's all suitability reports, all done on this software. They love that because they can keep an eye on you. They can do what they call oversight, which the FCA require. So some dude with some laptop can go on a dashboard and see what all his ARs are doing at any given time. Big brotherly, isn't it? But that's your option. And a lot of these software that the financial services industry has, they make them so bloated. They just make them do everything, which is great, but you end up with this great big bloated software on your little laptop. Okay, it is using the cloud to power itself, but it's still trugging away. You can use all sorts of different software to run your office. You could sign up for Microsoft 365 and have all the PowerPoints and Word available to you. Come with Teams, of course, cloud storage and OneDrive. It's all part of the deal. Pay a monthly payment for that one as well. You should certainly have an accounting software, particularly if you're VAT registered, so you can do VAT returns. So use Sage or something like that for your accounts. You definitely need that. And to send your accountant, she can download it herself, the file that she needs to be able to do your accounts for you as well. Calendly for clients to fix up meetings, for example, that talks to your online 365 calendar. That would certainly be one to go for as well. If you do a lot of writing, make sure you have something like Grammarly that checks your writing for you. CRM systems like Capsule, you'll definitely need to have one of those as well, unless you've got one, of course. The video, the Zoom, Teams, there's quite a lot of software you need to run your office. There's a few examples there for you as well to help you. What is the required kit needed to work from home? So we've talked about online meetings, that's great. So what else do you need to work from home? Well, a lot of people have discovered this course since COVID. A lot of people are very good at this, and many advisors now have like a spare room, maybe at home, or they've built themselves a garden office, or they've converted the attic or something. So, dedicated working space is really important to have if you're going to be working from home full time or 3 days a week, for example, because you don't want to be interrupted and work on a dining room, for example. So, dedicated room is good. Furniture, of course, a good desk, chair. Don't skimp on the chair. Don't just get dining room chair, because your back, you're quite sedentary in your job, and you should obviously break off every hour, do some exercise, stuff like that. I mean, my job's quite sedentary now, so I have to exercise regularly in the morning and swimming in the evenings. Otherwise, I'll just creak up. So make sure you invest well in a chair. Our marketing director, for example, we've got this office chair, costs a few quid, but it's like you have in an office, and it's good because it preserves your back. So don't skimp on that. Obviously, the tech, the computer, monitors, lights, cameras, microphones, all those things to do your online meetings are all needed to work from home. So there's quite a lot of kit going on there if you wish to do it and do it properly as well. So that's a good investment. It's all tax deductible. So make sure you keep receipts for that sort of thing as well. There you go. Next question. What do we got? Top tips then to work from home. Top tips to work from home. Well, everyone's got quite good at working from home now, haven't they? Since the COVID pandemic, when it crashed in 2020, we all suddenly had to start working from home, and people had all sorts of tips and techniques and things about managing your time and only doing things in a certain time, making sure it's 9 to 5, at 5 o'clock, finish off and go and have your tea and don't go back to work afterwards and stuff like that. Everybody had an opinion, and I get all of that. I think the key thing though is attitude in your head. I've been working from home for years, but some people that have just nailed it, what they start realizing is that when you work from home and you're self-employed, you run your own business, the work never stops. It doesn't, does it? A good friend of mine is a farmer, and he tells me that the work never stops. Even in the midwinter, nothing's growing. There's always jobs to do. And therefore, when you get to that stage where there's always like a bit of marketing to do, or some videos to do, or some photography to do, or some client acquisition to do, or some contact to do, it's always something to do when you're self-employed. And then when you're working from home, it's quite easy to work on to 8, 9, 10 o'clock. That's okay, And I get it that some lenders pull deals at midnight and all that stupidity. I know the way they do it, but it's not fair that brokers are up till 1 o'clock in the morning keying in information. That's just wrong, all levels. I get why we do it. But embrace the fact that years ago, before offices were created, offices only really were created in the late 19th century, really, think about it. And even then, they were quite fairly small fry, weren't they? 20th century offices started to really grow, and skyscrapers and stuff like that. Before that, people did work from home, and they shared home life with work life. The baker would wake up, he'd bake some bread in the morning for everybody, and then he'd go have some breakfast with his family and bake some more bread, and then go back after he's bathed the children and bake some bread for the morning. He made it happen, and that's the way to do it. It's up to you. Everyone's got their own ideas. I think as long as you embrace the right methodology and you have breaks and you do things you need to do, if you enjoy your work, there's nothing wrong with doing it. But everyone has an opinion on that one. Anyway, let's see what else we've got. A couple of final questions. How can I automate much of my sales process? We kind of talked about this one, haven't we? Automation. How can we automate it? How can we make it quicker and easier? Well, I've talked about becoming hybrid. I've talked about making sure that you use technology to do things like the suitability letters, for example. Get some decent tech to do that, large language model, some kind of chat GPT as well. That's a good one. Definitely use that as well. Get paperless, of course. Don't have paper. Make sure you scan everything and store everything up in the cloud so that you can access things at any time. So that's the first thing to do as well. Get as much tech as you can. Get power planners in to do some of the work for you. I've talked about that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So that you just generally do the soft fact finding and the advice business and take the advice risk, of course. The front end of your sales process, you could certainly automate the prospecting, the client acquisition. You could certainly automate that. Get a decent CRM system and start using things like MailChimp and stuff like that to keep in touch with clients as well. Make sure you automate all those areas. That's a good way of automating much of your sales process. Okay, last question, but one, I think. Got a couple more then. What other AI can I use? Artificial intelligence is doing all the rounds at the moment. Everyone's talking AI now. If you've got AI in your business plan, the stock market immediately puts your price of your shares up. So I think it'll come down a little bit as a result of that. AI is everything, and I think it's going to take over the world, and AI using weapon systems and stuff like that. I get all of that, but that's a bit futuristic, isn't it? AI itself is important. You should be using it. And there's a number of things you can certainly use. I've got a graphic coming up now with some AI on it, which you might be interested in. So let's just reveal this one for you. Let's put the graphic up for you. I'll get out of the way so you can see the graphic in its entirety. And we've got some various AI writing assistants, for example. ChatGPT we know about. WordTune, Bard is a good one. Grammar, if you're doing a lot of writing. Grammarly is my favorite. It's brilliant, that software. PaperPal, Quillbot. Citations, if you're doing any of that kind of stuff as well. There's a few there, isn't it? Productivity there as well. Literature search. There's just a few ideas there for you of different types of AI you can use for financial advisors. Let's just pop back into the system here for you. For financial advisors, definitely use something like Calendly that automates the appointment process so clients can determine when they want to come and see you. Otter AI is a great piece of software that records as podcasts, but more than that, it'll record meetings and transcribe them and give you a typed up version of the whole meeting, which you can then upload in seconds, and compliance people are happy. So that's a good one to have as well. Feedly to automate your CPD. Talked about that before. And Feedly goes off to the internet, gets all the relevant articles and puts it into one inbox for you so you can do your CPD, keeping yourself up to date as well. So there's all sorts of AI you can use, and they're all new ones coming in. There's AI that does videos for you, does shorts, YouTube shorts. There's AI that will interpret a video and turn it into a summary of key points. So there's all sorts of things you can use artificial intelligence to do your job and do it well. So keep investing in that is the key one. Get yourself a budget. £50 a month, £100 a month might be a good budget to use, because these things all need paying for. People, it ain't free no more. Back in the 2010s, the likes of Google and Facebook, Metaverse, Alphabet, they're all doing stuff for free because they made a mint on advertising. That may well be stopping soon. And AI is very expensive, by the way, because it data crunches a whole lot more electricity used. So they're charging for it. So get yourself a budget for it. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Don't skimp your business model, I think is the key one. I think I've got one last question, and I think we've left the let's get rid of our little picture there. We've left the legal one to last, haven't we? How do I comply with UK GDPR? Now, GDPR's been around for a few years now. It was a European thing, wasn't it? Now we've got our own version now called UK GDPR. Somebody came up with a great name there, didn't they? Just put UK at the beginning. Love that. But of course, this is about data protection. And if you're holding client data, then you need to register with the Data Protection Registrar. You need to pay your £30 a year. It's not much. And you need to become a data controller, and you need to make sure that you preserve your data carefully so you don't get hacked. So make sure you have good cyber security, whatever that looks like. You don't want to be hacked. You don't want to lose your data. Make sure you back it up, of course, but use your data carefully. Make sure you get permission to use it. People buy these databases of email addresses. It does get me. I don't know how they get around that one. But to get permission to use your client's data, only keep the data you need. Yes, your best advice software will have all the personal stuff, and that will be owned by somebody else anyway. But the client data that you use to keep in touch with the client, name, address, email addresses, phone numbers, birthday dates, those sort of things, that's the stuff you need to keep yourself. So make sure that you get permission for that one, keep it up to date. So that's how you comply with UK GDPR. Do you like that, do you? Okay, this has been How to Succeed as a Mortgage Advisor, tech automation and embracing the future. Hope you found it quite useful. As always, we keep you up to date with stuff if you are on our member database. So there's the scan, there's the QR code. So make sure that you, where is it? There is it. Make sure that you put that in your phone now. I'll just pause as you do that. Put that in your phone now and go to this landing page, put your email address in there, and you get onto our system where we keep you informed of all sorts of free stuff that we're doing to keep you informed, to make you a very better financial advisor. So I hope you found all this very useful. We're coming back later this week as well for another version of the system. Other than that, let's hope you enjoy the rest of your day. See you soon. Bye.